Hello, and welcome to this video presentation. My name is Paul Brett. I'm a Senior Software Support Analyst supporting the Transformation Extender product from IBM. The subject for today's video is taking an audit log, converting it to an HTML report, and then using the email adapter to send that to a remote target. Feel free to reach out to me on popular social media channels at Paul Brett IBM. In this practical demonstration, we're going to use a pre-built audit Typetree to read an audit log. We are then going to use the Eclipse XML editor to create a schema for an HTML report file. Next, we will generate a map and map the various elements from the XML-based audit file over to the HTML report file. Finally, we will use the email adapter to send that HTML report via email. So let's start this demonstration. I have my virtual machine open and I have ITX 10.1 installed. Design Studio is running, and as you can see, I have created a project called Audit to HTML Report. On the file system, you can see that this project has 4 files already: a generic.mtt Typetree with a text blob in it, the tryaudit.mtt Typetree which I've copied from the Design Studio installation, an audit log which has a failure, which is what we're going to be working on today, and finally a skeleton map source file. So back in the Design Studio, let's open that skeleton map source file, and as you can see there are no maps currently in it. The first thing we're going to do is build a map using the tryaudit.mtt Typetree to read the audit log that has been produced from another map failing. So let's click on New Map here and put the map name in as Test 1. Let's create a new input card called In1, and that In1 card is going to use the tryaudit Typetree. The object we're going to use is in the Audit In section. Under Audit Log we have General. We click OK, and the file we're going to read is that failure audit log that is from another map that we're going to create a report from. Okay, so this map is now ready to run. We can at least see if this Typetree is going to validate that audit log. So we'll save, we build, and we run. The map is completed successfully. So that is the first part finished. The next part will be to create a schema for the output card that is going to generate our HTML. So let's first close the map temporarily, switch to the XML perspective, and we are going to right click on the project and choose New XML Schema File. We're going to call this schema Output Report.xsd. We're going to add a root element called HTML. Let's change that to a local anonymous type, and then double click it to add any child elements. So the first child element we're going to add is body, and we're going to change that from string also to a new local anonymous type. That's it. That's all we need to do for HTML. The only thing that is inside HTML is body. So let's double click on that, and then we can edit the body type. Let's add elements H1, element H2, and for H2 I'm going to set the multiplicity 0 or more, and let's add another element Li, and once again I'm going to change the multiplicity of Li to 0 or more. And finally I'm going to, in body, I'm going to add an attribute. The attribute is going to be BG BG color. This will be the background attribute for the HTML report. Okay, that's my schema completely finished. Let's have a quick look at the source. So we have an HTML, and within that we have a body, and then within that we have one H1 level, 0 or more H2s, and 0 or more LIs. And H2 is a subheading, and LI is a bulleted list. So let's save that schema and close and switch back to the transformation extender perspective. The next step in our map is to create an output card that uses that schema. So let's do that now. Create output card. We're going to call this output card out1. The schema name is going to be output report.xsd. From the type picker we are going to choose just the root XSD, and the file we're going to create is output report.html. Now before we come out of this screen, let's go into type and expand metadata and namespaces, and you'll see that it automatically created a namespace for TNS. Now this is going to mess our HTML report up, so I'm going to remove it now and click OK. Okay, so our schema is created and it's expanded with rules to bring in all the elements we need from the input side. But before we do that, let's just put in some dummy values to look what our HTML report looks like. So let's put in a color. We're going to put in FFDDDD. Should be a nice light pink color. We're going to put a heading, Map Failure Report. And for heading 2, we're going to add an index. And here we're going to put in the platform eventually, but for now we're just going to put in a fixed word, platform. And we're also going to put in the map start time. We'll put some pseudo values in for now and fill out the actual values later. Let's add an index for LI now, and let's add in the map name. And add another index for failure reason. Okay, so that's our map built with some pseudo values. We've not actually brought anything in from the audit side at the moment, but let's save, build and run that map now and see what kind of output file we get. If we expand miscellaneous, you'll see we have an output report.html. If I double click that, we can see the raw HTML. Let's just drag that over there. And if I right click it, I can also open it with a web browser. And you will see that the background is indeed light pink, as I expected, with the FFDDDD value. And we have our map failure report. We have our pseudo values for platform, map start time, map name and failure reason. So that's our report looking nice. Now we just need to populate it with actual values from the input side. So that's the next job. Let's maximize my map and we will get to mapping those values. So there we are. I've edited the rules somewhat to bring in information from the input side. For example, map name, I've used two word functions on the command line attribute to bring in the name of the map. In the map start time, I've used the text function around the entire time and date stamp group. In the LI sections, I brought in the message data, and then I did a check. So if the first word in that message data is source, I bring in the source message data. Otherwise, I bring in the target message data. So let's once again open up our HTML report in a web browser. Let's just bring that down there to split the screen. And up here, let's build and run. Map is completed successfully, and refresh the browser. And here we go. Here's our map failure report. We can see that the map was run under the command server. The map name was test1. The map started at 13:16 on June the 21st. The error report was target not available, and the reason was required command line options missing. So there we go. That is my completed map failure report. What you could do with the HTML schema is add as many elements as you like and map as many details across as you would like to send to the person that has to deal with the map failure. An additional thing you could also do is, using the map name, you could have a lookup table and for certain map names you could be sending this report to one person, but other map names you could be sending it to a completely different person. So we could get in the target for the next output card 2, which is going to be sent via email to a different recipient depending on a value within the audit report itself. But we're not going to do that today. We're just going to create a simple output card 2 that is going to send this audit failure report via email to somebody's inbox. Back in the map designer, and as you can see I've just collapsed both input and output cards. This is in preparation for creating a completely new output card. So I'm going to do that now. We're going to create a new output card called out2. We're going to use the generic Typetree that has a text blob object within it that I can use for general purpose things like this. And the target of this card is going to be email. Now the adapter command I need to build based on the email server that I'm sending this to. So the first thing we want is the proto, which is going to be INET. This is the protocol that we're going to be using. Then we want the server, which for me is going to be VM2K XAPP. And then we want the 2. I'm going to send this email to Steve. And we're sending it from Alan. We're going to be sending an attachment. Let's make this a bit wider. And the attachment is going to be called output report.html. We're going to have a subject. This is a map failure report. And finally we're going to turn on verbose tracing for the email adapter. And that should be it for the card. For the rule, we're going to send in the entire content of the HTML report we built in output card 1. So we're going to do equals package out1. Okay, before we run this map, I'm going to rearrange my windows so that you can see both the email server receiving the email and also the email client at the other end that is owned by Steve. As you can see, I've rearranged my screen to show 3 different virtual machines at the same time. On the far right we have my Design Studio machine, and that's all ready to run the map still. In the middle we have our email server that is showing the current log, so we should see the logging for the connection from the Design Studio as the email is sent to the mail server. And finally on the far left we have a Windows 10 machine running Windows Mail, and we have the user Steve who is looking at his mailbox, which is currently empty. So let's rearrange the windows again so we can see them all in the background. From our map designer we are going to build and run our map. In the window in the middle you should see the connection from the Design Studio deliver the mail to the mail server. The map has completed successfully. And on the far left in our Windows client, if we hit the refresh button, the user Steve receives 1 email. We see the login there for the email being checked from the server. The user Steve receives 1 email from Alan, and this email contains an attachment called output report.html. Now this mail program has rendered the attachment as best as it could within the content, but if we double click on this actual report it will open in Edge, and you will see that it is the report that we created with the pink background with all the details for the map failure report that came from the audit log. So there we have it. There is a system of maps that can read audit logs, optionally do some kind of lookup to work out which destination that's got to go to, map it across using a schema to an HTML report, and then use the email adapter to send that to its final location. I want to thank you for taking the time to watch my video presentation today. If you found the content interesting and informative, please hit that like button. consider subscribing to my YouTube channel, as I release content such as this on a regular basis. Feel free to reach out to me on popular social media channels at Paul Brett IBM. Thank you.